Good evening, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for joining me on TCM as we kick off another night of movies with Ava Gardner. She is December's Star of the Month. Gardner's career in Hollywood began at MGM in 1941. For 5 years, though, crickets, small parts, nothing memorable. Then she made The Killers with Burt Lancaster in 1946, and everything changed. By the 1950s, Gardner was one of the most popular stars in the business, but Hollywood never really appealed to her, and she confidently left MGM when her contract was up in 1958. By that point, she was living in Spain, only working on projects that truly interested her. Tonight, we're focusing on this chapter of Ava Gardner's career, the 1960s, and we begin with Gardner starring alongside Dirk Bogarde in a romantic war drama from 1960, The Angel Wore Red. Bogarde plays a priest who falls for a woman of the night. That's Ava Gardner during the early days of the Spanish Civil War. The Angel Wore Red was written and directed by Nunnally Johnson and shot on location in Italy. Initially, Gardner was happy with the setup and with her director. She and Johnson were both Southerners. They enjoyed swapping stories about home. They were also optimistic at the outset of the production. Gardner, who was 37, was eager to embrace being deglamorized, envisioning her character as a free spirit possessed by an earthly beauty without makeup or shapewear. Back in Hollywood, however, MGM executives were not impressed with that plan. Their response to Gardner's rushes was brutal, complaining about bags under her eyes and that she wasn't wearing a girdle. They ordered Johnson to glam her up, going squarely against Gardner's vision for the part. By the end of filming, she vowed never to make another movie. Thankfully, she was merely angry, and she did return to the screen, going on to give some of her best performances over the next few years, 3 of which we'll have coming up on TCM later tonight. From 1960, also with Joseph Cotten and Italian director Vittorio De Sica, The Angel Wore Red. The Angel Wore Red was shot on location in Italy, and from the start of production, writer-director Nunnally Johnson appeared to be in over his head, though it's really hard to fault him. He was a seasoned studio man, comfortable with the limits of the Hollywood production system. But in Italy, the rules were a bit looser and the corruption a bit more formal. There were problems with the extras, who were organized by the mafia, problems with the Vatican, and problems with the ratio of communists to Catholics on Johnson's payroll. That's true. One of Johnson's duties required him to keep a running count of the number of communists and Catholics. His head must have exploded if he was ever confronted with a communist Catholic. The shadiness of the mafia connections to labor unions was familiar to Italian director Vittorio De Sica, who had a supporting role in the movie. Knowing what he knew, De Sica demanded $1,000 in cash every day before cameras rolled. Otherwise, he didn't trust he'd get paid. The day Nunnally Johnson finished principal photography, he was presented with a ticket to leave town. He did. The Angel Wore Red was the last film Johnson ever directed, and he later claimed he never watched it. Ahead tonight, Ava Gardner returns with a captivating performance in an adaptation of a play by Tennessee Williams, co-starring Richard Burton, Deborah Carr, and Sue Lyon. The Night of the Iguana is next on TCM.